We're almost to the end of 2025, so we have one more Mailbag Friday to get to before 2026. Let's get to your thoughts next on Locked On Royals.
You are Locked On Royals, your daily Kansas City Royals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are tuned into another edition of Locked On Royals on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. That is at JOHNYJ_15. You also can listen to us on wherever you download your podcast. That can be Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, Odyssey, and YouTube. Just be sure to hit that follow button and subscribe. For you first-time listeners wondering what to expect from the channel, right now we are just doing 3 episodes a week. Those coming out on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. But in season, and for about 10 and a half months out of the year, we bring you 5 episodes a week, Monday through Friday, 30-minute episodes in length. Before we dive into the first question of today's episode, I want to tell you that this episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. If you do want to be included in these episodes, a reminder that you always want to reach out to us on YouTube. You want to reach out to us on Twitter. Just title your question Mailbag Friday, and then, of course, put the actual question below it. Makes it much easier for me to find it. If I ever miss your question, it's not intentional, just didn't pop up on my notification page. So let's start it off here with the first question on Twitter. This one's from Braden. Mailbag question, what's the best present you've ever received and what's the best you've ever given? Well, I'll have to out myself a little bit. I'm not a very good gift giver. Never really have been. I don't enjoy shopping. Online shopping made things a lot easier. I would say, though, one of the better gifts I've given would have been tickets to a playoff game, probably for the Chiefs. I think I'd have to go back to 2019, I believe it was. Got these tickets. Also last year for my brother, I got 2 tickets to the game in San Francisco because that's where he lives for the Royals and Giants. So I was pretty proud of myself on that. But creativity, I'll leave that up to the other people in my family because they're much, much better at it than I am. The best gift I've ever received, that's a tough one. I would say, to answer the question a little quicker here, some good podcast equipment that I've gotten over the years. So better mic, better camera. That certainly helped me improve this podcast and make it more watchable for you guys. But I really have to think long and hard about that. I certainly have a couple gifts fresh on my mind from yesterday or a couple days ago. But for right now, I guess I'll stick with those 2 answers. But definitely let us know in the YouTube comments what your favorite gift is or the best gift that you've ever given to someone else. This one's coming from Dalton. At this rate, with the Jarren Duran asking price being too high, do you think Picollo is more likely to go after a different outfielder such as Austin Hayes or Harrison Bader, or do you think they're still likely to go after Jarren Duran? There was the report from Jeff Passan not too long ago that the Red Sox are still asking for top of the rotation arms for Jarren Duran. And nobody's willing to meet that asking price. And so maybe at the end of the day, the Red Sox are not going to back down on that in the offseason. It could always change at the deadline. I'd be very curious what that lineup looks like with Jarren Duran on it and how often he plays. But if you have somebody that's getting squeezed out of the outfield in a starting spot in the lineup, nobody's going to give you a frontline guy for your rotation. And not when they already have Garrett Crochet. They just signed Sonny Gray. They have Bayo too. So there are some really good options in that rotation, and nobody's given up their number 1 or number 2 for Jarren Duran. At least I don't think so. Picollo has mentioned that if they don't get the impact bat that they've been searching for, which appears to be Duran and Donovan, they won't be against adding a couple other outfielders that are high OBP guys. Now, that's not really Austin Hayes, and it's not really Harrison Bader with the exception of last year, but I could see them pivoting to bats like that, but not just one of them. I could see them trying to bring in a couple of more if they don't land one of those big-name outfielders they've been searching for all offseason long. This one is coming from Spin Cycle. Who wins the second base job out of spring training? My gut tells me Jonathan India because Michael Massey just hasn't been as durable. The numbers were certainly not there last year. I'm not saying they were for India either, but you gave him that contract for a reason. You tendered his contract for a reason, paying him $8 million. And to have Jonathan India making $8 million and sitting on the bench, not really good business. If they felt that he was incapable of winning that job at second base, or there was going to be competition, I don't believe they would have tendered the contract. I believe they would have let him go, and he might have signed elsewhere. But for right now, it's pretty clear they have this hope that he is going to bounce back. I know it's going to ruffle a lot of feathers, and you are just going to be upset about Jonathan India being the everyday second baseman until he improves his numbers. That's totally understandable. But the options behind him right now are not good enough. Isaac Collins could play second base, but that feels like a down-the-road situation because he's a great defender in left field. I would rather have the defense in left field than moving him to his secondary position at second base. I'd rather Jonathan India return to 2024 for him because I feel the lineup can really get a boost if he is able to do that. This one is coming from C Money. Will we trade for a big bat? It just is one that's going to keep popping up on our mailbag episodes because it is the biggest question of the offseason. Are they going to land that signature bat? And I go back and forth every other day. I feel that we're trending in a direction where that asking price is going to come down on Brendan Donovan or Jarren Duran. There's so much smoke around those two players. They're connected to the Royals. The Royals still want to add. You don't hear that from a ton of other teams out there. But at the end of the day, there's still a chance those asking prices don't come down. And the Royals do not want to move on from Noah Cameron. They probably don't even want to trade Ryan Bergert or Stephen Kolek due to the years of control. The only guy they seem adamant about wanting to trade, and maybe wanting is not the right word to use, motivated to trade, I guess, would be Kris Bubic. Because Bubic is going to be a free agent at season's end. And all these other guys have multiple years of control. But you're just not going to get the bat you're looking for Kris Bubic straight up. It's going to cost you some more. And I'm not even sold they want to trade away guys from their farm system that are top five. They want to continue to bolster that group so that you're not having to go through any long rebuild for the next 10 to 15 years. I know it's more of a pipe dream than anything, but along with bolstering the big league roster, you want to make sure you don't have a barren farm system, and they don't have a top 10 farm system. They have a bottom 10 system, and they want to continue to add to that. So when it comes to adding that big bat, it's really going to come down to the asking price for those teams. The Royals seem pretty stuck in their ways about who they're willing to give up and, who's going to be included in some type of deal. And if those teams don't want to accept that, then they might have to look elsewhere, whether that be free agency or maybe a couple of smaller trades. This one is coming from Spoons, moved out of KC and lived close to Surprise, Arizona. Would you go to spring training this year with the boys going to the World Baseball Classic or wait a year? Never been to spring training. I would say if you're right in Surprise, it's very affordable and easy to go out and check out spring training. I believe it's one of the coolest things you can experience in baseball because it's so intimate, so personal. There's not a lot of people there. You get up close, with your seats, and you get to see the game. And even though it's not an important game, they don't count. You get to see guys you're not going to see for a while in Kansas City. You can almost just hear all the sounds, those great type of sounds for baseball. The cleats stepping into the dirt, the crack of the bat, the wind. It's gorgeous out there. Surprise, Arizona, as you know, has great weather, and around that time of the year, it's probably the best among any other place in the country. It's 75 degrees, sunny, not a cloud in the sky, and it's not too hot, not too cold, and you're watching baseball. You can't really beat that. But if you want the atmosphere, you want the energy, and you're willing to travel a little bit, man, the World Baseball Classic, that's once every 3 years. I'd love for it to be every single year, but with it once every 3 years and you're willing to spend a little bit of money, it's going to be electric. And this is going to be one of the better, if not the best World Baseball Classic we've seen to date. So my pick would be, because I've been to spring training quite a bit, World Baseball Classic. But if you've never been before either and you don't really want to spend that type of money on travel and tickets and this and that, spring training is just such a fun event. And I always tell people you got to do it at least once, whether you are a diehard baseball fan or not. Let's get one more here before our first break. It's from John. Is there still a trade candidate the Royals or no one is talking about? Bubic for this player would be an example. Personally, I would like to see Bubic in the bullpen. There are a few people that want to see Bubic in the bullpen. I don't see it being as likely now that they've acquired Matt Strahm. They still have Daniel Lynch and Bailey Falter fighting for a spot in the bullpen, and really just the other left-handed spot in the bullpen. When it comes to a trade target no one's talking about, it's tough to answer that because if they're not talking about him, it's really hard to pinpoint somebody that makes a lot of sense. I mean, there are options out there like a Brenton Doyle, right, in Colorado that I feel would be a really nice bounce back candidate for this lineup. Can really play above average defense, but he was not good last year. And so that is a bit of a gamble, and the Rockies don't seem that interested in moving him. But he's rarely been talked about or linked to the Royals. I'm trying to think of some other teams that will not be competing, will want to move an outfielder. Maybe not a trade target, but Mike Tauchman makes a good amount of sense for the Royals. Another high OBP guy, was really good for the White Sox when healthy, back-to-back years, in fact, where he's been high walk rate guy, puts together really good ABs, can play left, center, and right field. That feels like a good match for the Royals. So I'll say maybe those two guys for now that we're not talking about a lot. But I've even seen a couple of reports where Mike Tauchman and the Royals would make a lot of sense, and he'd be very affordable in free agency. Let's take our first break of the show. When we come back, still a lot of questions to get to next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned in to Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can find us on wherever you listen to your podcast. Want to tell you about the title sponsor today in Gametime. In the midst of basketball season, there's nothing like being in the building. The crowd, the energy, the moments you can't get watching from the couch. The only problem, getting tickets used to be a hassle with long queues, logins, and prices changing at checkout. That's why Gametime is such a game changer. It puts the advantage back in the fans' hands and makes scoring great NBA tickets fast, easy, and stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off on your first purchase. Those terms apply. So again, use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Let's continue on with our questions from Twitter. This one is from Royals and Chiefs. I know you said something about Royals taking pitching with the 6th pick. I think Carson Bowman would be an excellent pick, especially if you pair him with Shields and Chourio and you have a big 3 there. Yeah, I can't wait once we get closer to the MLB draft, which guys start getting mocked to the Royals. And, I thought that last year when they took Josh Hammond, he was one of those guys that very late in the game started getting linked to the Royals. Gamble was a different story. Gamble was linked to the Royals for about a month or two before the draft. And so to see those two guys land in Kansas City, it makes it more fun that when you are reading up on some of these prospects, you get to know them a little bit better before the draft actually happens. As of right now, I would like to see them go pitching because I just feel they've been so great at developing at the lower level of late. And if you did put together a big 3 with Chourio, Shields, and then a guy like that, a prospect like that, you are really raising the floor of your farm system. I know that everybody wants to see the prep bat, turn into another Bobby Witt Jr., but to me, the lifeblood is always going to be pitching for the Royals. And the more guys you can take in the first round that are, moldable, I guess I should say, pitchers, whether they be a prep guy or a college guy, the better I'll feel long-term about this team having a window of contention because you can trade pitching, they can join your rotation, they can be bullpen arms. I know we're getting ahead of ourselves when we're talking about a draft pick next year, but I do like that idea. I can't wait to really start diving into those mocks the closer we get to the MLB draft. This one is coming from David. With the addition of Strong, could Casey dangle Estevez for a big bat? I don't know if Estevez would be getting you that big bat. He'd be coveted by a lot of teams out there, but in adding Strong, I think it's to bolster that bullpen, and trading away the guy that led the league in saves kind of goes against what they're trying to do. It's not a bad idea at all. And if the Royals are out of it by the deadline, he probably becomes one of those trade chips that becomes the most desired by a lot of teams out there needing back-end bullpen help. But for now, I would say the return is not what you'd think it would be. It certainly wouldn't land you a Duran or a Donovan. You'd probably get, a couple of young players with years of control. But the Royals want Estevez to be in this bullpen, and they want him, to come close to leading the league in saves again. And with Matt Strahm, coming to that bullpen, they only want to strengthen it and not subtract from it. This one is coming from Cole Reagan's Mustache. Which side says no to a Buxton for Cameron Mitchell and Shields deal? The Twins or the Royals? Seems about perfect for me. This is a very good trade proposal because both sides are going to say, oh, it'd be no. Right? Minnesota loves Byron Buxton, and the Royals certainly love Noah Cameron, Blake Mitchell, and David Shields. I mean, I think the Twins would be getting a great haul there, but Twins fans would say, from a bottom 10 farm system, why would we want 2 prospects, from your team? Even Noah Cameron isn't that great of a return for us because Byron Buxton has MVP-like talent, and for the Royals, that'd be some type of acquisition. For a simple answer here, though, I would say, knowing how J.J. Picollo operates a little bit, I think he'd say no. I really would. I'd love to see Byron Buxton on this team, but I'm sure they'd bring up the concerns of his past injury issues, now getting over the age of 30, how much longer is he going to be effective? You got the contract. I feel, honestly, the Royals would say no to that before the Twins would say no to it. And that's just kind of the way that J.J. Picollo operates when it comes to trading a lot of pieces from your team for just one guy, even if the guy is as good as Byron Buxton. But I think that's really interesting to think about. Williams' question, do you think there's a big trade/free agent signing on the horizon? I'm really hoping so. I'm hoping so too. I don't know if I'll be as spot on as we appeared to be on the Matt Strahm situation. During the holidays, I never want to rule it out, but I feel that it does quiet down a little bit around Christmas time. Then New Year's, you kind of see things spark back up again. I'm not sure where some of these free agent negotiations are. Good news is that before February 1st, in my opinion, because now you got pitchers and catchers reporting in 2 weeks, most of the top guys have signed. So I would say over the next month, we're going to know what this roster looks like. I know it's kind of a dumb answer to give you. I would say that nothing is imminent as of right now, but it would not surprise me in the next week or two if we start to hear some things, heating up again. We start to hear, more trade rumors swirling about, or we hear the Royals being linked to another free agent. But for right now, it being Christmas time and we're coming up on New Year's, it can be a bit quiet for a little bit. But then in January, I mean, most of those guys want to be signed before spring training. And I'd imagine J.J. Picollo will have his roster in place before February 1st. This one is coming from Eli. Go-to restaurant near Kaufman and go-to restaurant in KC in general. It's a great question as well. Go-to restaurant in Kaufman, as we all know, there's not a lot out there by the Truman Sports Complex. You'd probably have to go 15 minutes toward downtown. I'll say, Joe's, I would say. I just love barbecue in general. So, and I know that's going to be a very Kansas City answer. I would say Joe's because I really don't think it's that far from Kaufman. You're really not, having to make a long trek out there. But when I go to Royals games, I'm always tailgating. Can I have that as my answer, as tailgate food going into a Royals game? But for the sake of the restaurant question, yeah, I'll go Joe's and then favorite and KC in general. I will go and say, I will say Kyoto. Actually, I love hibachi. It's a little bit expensive, but nothing beats it, man. I would say that I could have that every single meal of my life. I really could. If it wasn't so expensive, I mean, I could have that for dinner every single night. So those are 2 drastically different answers. But yeah, I'll go with those 2 for now. I had always wished with Kauffman Stadium there was more of a bar district right around it. Unfortunately, it's just the 2 stadiums out there. Then you got the tailgating experience. So I hope you don't fault me for saying usually when I go to Royals games, my favorite restaurant is just in the parking lot, cooking on a grill somewhere. This one is from Jason. I know the bullpen looks like it's filling up, but do the Royals still have interest in Hunter Harvey at all? I still think when healthy, this guy's dang good. And I, for one, would like to see the Royals sign into a cheap deal. I would not push back on it, but Hunter Harvey is just not durable whatsoever. I mean, since the Royals acquired him, even, in that last year in Washington, and I believe a few times in Baltimore, Hunter Harvey was never healthy for an extended period of time. And so if you got him on a minor league deal, sure. But I'm sure Hunter Harvey wants to get a major league deal. And they got Alex Lang, who they're counting on to be healthier. I'm not sure that I want to go with 2 guys in the bullpen that have not really been the epitome of durability. They have not been those guys that are poster children, if you will, of 70 inning guys or 80 inning guys. And if you bring in Hunter Harvey, only deal that I would be okay with is probably a minor league deal because he just has not been durable at all since coming to Kansas City. We'll take our final break of the show. When we come back, we'll wrap it up with our final set of questions next on Locked On Royals. You are tuned in to Locked On Royals and the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Jack Johnson, and you can follow me on Twitter at JohnnyJ_15. Want to tell you about two things, starting with the Everydayer Club. Thank you for making Locked On Royals your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcasting network. And if you haven't already, go check out our new Everydayer Club. Very easy to find. Just scroll down a little bit into the show notes below. You got the URL, and then get you all set up there with a good deal. You get ad-free content. You got the Discord server. You got the texting. I mean, Locked On is very, very happy about this. They're very excited about this, and they want to know how many people would be interested in something like this. So you're going to be hearing us talk a lot more about this going into the new year. You've certainly already heard us talking about it over the last couple of weeks, but if you are more interested, just scroll down a little bit, click on that URL, and they'll get you all set up. We also want to tell you about FanDuel, the second sponsor of today's show. NFL Sundays move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so very exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds, every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. For my pick, I'm going to take the over on rushing yards for James Cook, and I will take an anytime touchdown from Cook as well. This is somebody that can be the key difference. Not really a wild card or a dark horse. He's one of the best running backs in the league, but he can be the guy next to Josh Allen to finally get the Bills back to the Super Bowl and win it. But I'm just picking it for this Sunday, over on rushing yards and an anytime touchdown from Cook. The final set of questions on Twitter is going to begin here with Hunter. If Jack takes a step back, or if Jack takes a step and Jensen is what he was in the first stint, do we need another bat? I feel that you can be hopeful for those guys. I don't want to put too much pressure on them, though. Like what they give you, if it's league average, you take that. But I'm not going after free agents or another trade, banking on those guys to be the difference makers. I feel that for great teams out there, you're certainly, putting a lot of faith into them and you're putting some stock into them, but you want to take that pressure off of them. You do not want to put the weight of this offense on two guys who have never been everyday big league ball players before. So to answer your question, if they didn't make a move and those guys become great, then yeah, they wouldn't have needed the bat because those two became the big impact bats. But I'm not going with that logic into the season. I would rather them add another bat or two so you take that pressure off their shoulders. This one is from Nathan. You've mentioned a couple of times the Tigers are the betting favorites for the Central, mainly because of Skubal. So what would the Royals need to do to become the favorites? Is it possible? It's absolutely possible. And if you guys listen to my interview with Dan Szymborski, which you can only check out on our podcasting page, it's not on YouTube, didn't have video set up for it. But he talked about how the AL Central is wide open, and he put the Royals second right now. If they were to leapfrog them, it'd be adding a bat like Jarren Duran and then maybe another bat and another bullpen arm. I know it sounds like a lot, but really it can be attainable for the Royals because the Tigers haven't done a ton this offseason. Neither is Cleveland, neither is Minnesota. The White Sox have honestly been one of the more active teams, and I expect them to be a bit better. But to surpass Detroit, you're going to have to assemble a roster and a lineup especially that is without question better than Detroit's because they got a better lineup than you top to bottom. And they've got a guy like Tarek Skubal. When you have Skubal, you're going to be a betting favorite in a lot of situations. This one's from Aiden. Chris Bubic and Blake Mitchell for Joe Adell. I know it seems unlikely, but the Angels don't care a ton about health of players and are willing to take on the money. Who says no? I bet the Angels would because for years the Royals tried to get Taylor Ward, and that asking price was astronomical for Taylor Ward. And for Joe Adell, younger, coming out of the season he did, I believe it'd be the Angels that would say no. Bryce's question, what would you rather see happen? First, the Royals make a few small moves like trading Bailey Falter and re-signing Adam Frazier, or two, Casey trades Bubic, lands Duran or Donovan. Oh, number two in a heartbeat. If it only took Chris Bubic to get Brendan Donovan and Jarren Duran, I would take that 10 out of 10 times. And I could still see a spot where the Royals do re-sign Adam Frazier shortly after a big move, because I think they do want him back in that clubhouse. This one is from, looks like, just a couple Merry Christmas wishes. Well, same to everybody out there for the kind words, and hope you guys had a great holiday week, and can't wait to get back to normal here on this podcast where we are able to stick to our regular routine. But hopefully everybody had a great time with family, had some good food, and just continue to count down the days until pitchers and catchers report and surprise Arizona. Let's jump over to YouTube here. This one's from Shane. How about J.J. Picollo taking a chance on John Kensey Noel instead of Austin Hayes? He has to be cheaper than Hayes, and if he's right, definitely has more power. It's an interesting name for sure, and Big Christmas is somebody that already becomes a fan favorite. He'd be fun to see in a Royals uniform. It is more of a risk, though, if he becomes your other bat. So for the price, you're exactly right. I mean, he's cheaper than Austin Hayes. He's not a great defender, so he's really only going to play right field and can play first. There is immense power there, as we saw in 2024. Last year was an abomination for him, though. I mean, I think he finished in the 140s. And even in 2024, he wasn't hitting all that well in the postseason before that home run off Luke Weaver. And I almost wonder if he's just that guy that will be remembered for that home run. I mean, other than that, he's a below-average defender. He's not incredibly fast. He's got that raw power, and maybe more raw power than a lot of right-handed bats in baseball. But there's such a glaring part to his game offensively, the swing and miss. He does not see the ball that well and pretty much relies on just hammering mistakes. And that's fine. But to me, if you wanted a more sure thing, more consistency, man, if you could get Austin Hayes down to a $9 to $10 million deal, I wouldn't hate it. That's for sure. I think I'd be just fine with it. But it's an interesting name to bring up. And I know that a lot of people would be happy just to have a fan favorite like Big Christmas in Kansas City. This one is coming from Reese. If Bregman signs with the Diamondbacks, which has momentum, who says no in this trade? Red Sox get Ketel Marte, Royals get Duran, and D-backs get Bubic, Ramon Ramirez, and Tristan Casas. I would say the Diamondbacks would say no in that. They want young and controllable pitching. So that's not Chris Bubic. He is a young pitcher. He's not as young as Noah Cameron, and he's also going to be a free agent at season's end. If they're going to move Ketel Marte, which I'm losing hope on, I feel they'd rather just stick with him. Even if they do get Alex Bregman, I don't think they'd be motivated at that point. They'd rather try to run it with an infield that includes Perdomo, Marte, and Bregman. If Bregman signs with Boston, that's where I think they become more motivated, even more so than they've been in the past, to trade a guy like Jarren Duran. But I think the Diamondbacks would say no. I like Ramon Ramirez as a prospect. I'm not sure the Diamondbacks would be over the moon for that. And Tristan Casas is fine, but another guy that's just kind of getting, I would say pushed out of Boston. Just not a spot for him. And Chris Bubic, same thing in the Royals rotation. So I feel if they're going to give up Ketel Marte, they have to be absolutely blown away by an offer. This one is from Can. Actually, no, this one's not from Can. It's from RT. Would you give up Cameron for Donovan or Duran? If not, and that's what it cost, you okay with no big bat addition? I would say straight up, if it was just Cameron for Duran or Cameron for Brendan Donovan, I would be. I feel that if it was just a 1-for-1, that could get it done. I feel that those two bats would be tremendous upgrades for the lineup and for the outfield. I feel, though, for the Royals, and knowing what J.J. Picollo said in the past, if they're going to trade Noah Cameron, they're not just getting one player. They're going to be getting multiple guys because that is a young guy they believe in and has multiple years of control. I'm not all right with not adding another bat or two. I feel that with the way the outfield was, with the way the offense was, you need to continue to bolster this lineup and add the depth to it. Because Matt Quatraro loves to have those platoon lineups. You want to make sure that all of those lineups are going to work more often than not. This was not an offense that was average last year. They were bottom 5 in all of baseball, and they need to be a lot better, a bunch better in 2026 if they expect to get back to October. This one is coming from Logan. Thoughts on a Wyatt Langford trade? I'd be all in for it. I would love a deal like that. Texas has been known this offseason to be shedding some payroll and moving on from some guys, but I would say that Wyatt Langford's somebody they want to keep long-term. They want to build around him. Even if they're doing a little retooling, a little bit of a rebuild, they want Wyatt Langford to be that guy that they build around. They add to his team and not move on from him for other prospects because he's still an incredibly young guy and one of the bright young stars in Texas. This one is coming from Clinton. Hey, Jack, are there any position players that could be everyday players in the next 1 to 2 years currently in the Royals farm system? It seems like all we have is pitching in the minors. Yeah, I believe that is a fair case to make. I mean, they've got some good young arms that I like when it comes to position players. Not sure I see an everyday player that's right at the door of the big leagues. I don't see anybody in Omaha that you could, take it and give an everyday spot in Kansas City. Omaha's team last year was not very good. They certainly were not good in the pitching department. Guys took steps back. You've got guys like John Raven, Nick Lofton, who got shots in Kansas City, but I don't see them being everyday guys really ever for the Royals. Maybe the next chance would be a Blake Mitchell type, truthfully. And he's still got to get to Double-A before I can really believe that. And I believe he will start the season in Double-A. But you're talking about position players here. And when you say everyday guys, it's not just making it to Kansas City. It's having a job and running with it. And upside-wise, there's not many position players right now because Cags and Jensen are in Kansas City that I feel would have a great chance over Blake Mitchell. So he'll be my pick there. And this one, actually, that'll do it. So funny enough, that will be our final question for Mailbag Friday. Thank you to everybody that sent in your question. If I missed anybody, was not intentional, as I always like to say. Just respond to this video below, and I'll try to have it answered before Monday morning. Before we say goodbye, I want to tell you one more thing about the Everydayer Club. You're going to have those ad-free episodes, exclusive Discord server access, and more. And subscriptions can be gifted through that custom link right below in our show notes. But until Tuesday, actually, we'll be answering those questions if I left any out just on YouTube here, because I know I got to all the questions on Twitter. But we'll have another episode on Tuesday morning unless some big move happens before then. So until next time, you take it easy, Kansas City.